305, if they just chased it, it wouldn't be there now, would it?
Of all the runs, the family fight, you receive that assignment more than any other one. There's nothing you can do because you're going into a private home. It's a man and a wife, and they're arguing. So there's no crime being committed. You know, a man can argue with a wife in his own home, so you don't have any power anyway. All you can do is advise him to go to the prosecutor. And you go to the same ones week after week.
I can't take anymore. I can't take anymore. I said he was getting his steam off. We are not ignorant people. I'm an intelligent woman. I'm a college woman. I know slut. I know prostitute. I've been to college. That's all. He picked up the thing. I guess what he was mad. He might want to hit it with it, but if I stopped it. Red will beat me to a pulp when you leave here, and I know this is the first time, officer. I don't tell my family those things because I don't want them to dislike him or dislike him because of our personal affairs.
Naturally, you feel sympathetic, but what can you really do? You try to straighten the people out, but sometimes it's like, you know, fighting a losing battle. But you do have to feel sympathy for the kids. There's an argument, you know, and there's hollering and screaming and fighting, and who's there but the police? So you're there. And a lot of times, you're going to have to back this man down. Because the first thing he's going to might say to you is, well, this is my wife, and I'm going to slap her in the face anyway, and this is my house. Now, to this kid, this is still his father, and he's the man of the world. He can outrun anybody. He can outfight anybody, you know. And the first thing you're going to have to tell him is, well, listen, if you lay a hand on her, you're going right to jail, and you better, you know, quieten down, see. So, I mean, the opinion the child is going to form, you can see it's going to be varied now. See, actually, what you are down there is you're the man in the middle. That's just about what it boils down to. Because when you're doing your job, you stand a good chance of being accused of being brutal and too aggressive, picking on people. When you're not doing it, or you're not making an arrest, you're lax. Depends, no matter how you handle yourself. You're still the guy in the middle, see. That's the thing.
There was a time in this city when wearing this badge entitled a man to a little respect from his fellow citizens, a salary in keeping with the cost of living, and the sort of security that only civil service jobs once offered. But times have changed. The city has changed. Attitudes have changed. And in the midst of these changes, the policeman has somehow been left behind. During his 22-year tenure as a Cleveland patrolman, Jack Morris has watched the city grow up and change around him. Watched his civilian friends go forward financially, while his own wages have fallen further and further behind by comparison, and felt a once friendly population grow increasingly hostile toward him and his fellow officers. On the other hand, Don Tibbetts knew what he was getting into when he joined the force 2 years ago. He walked into the job with his eyes open. But some of the things he's seen and experienced since have made him blink. Together, Morris and Tibbetts manned the single two-man squad car assigned to Census Zone 504, a 426-acre trouble spot in the heart of Cleveland's 5th Police District. The 5th is a scant 6.2 square miles in total area, by far the smallest of the city's half-dozen police districts. Yet 25% of all crimes committed in Cleveland occur here. To cope with this enormous crime rate, 10% of the city's sorely understaffed police force is assigned to the district, resulting in a theoretical enforcement ratio of 27 officers per square mile. The ratio is theoretical rather than real. Subtract from the 200 men assigned to the 5th the number involved in administrative, clerical, and non-enforcement duties. Divide by 10 the number of zones in the district, and divide again by 3 the number of shifts in a 24-hour period. And the result is somewhat shocking. In point of fact, when Patrolman Morris and Tibbetts take over their shift, they become largely responsible for the safety and welfare of some 17,000 souls inhabiting Zone 504. Their assignment is clearly spelled out: to investigate each complaint originating in their zone and to take appropriate action. It is a difficult, disheartening, and at times almost impossible task.
Evidently, these two boys came right in because I was only there a minute, and they grabbed my purse and beat it. They didn't touch me. And two boys were going down, and they went through this Kema alley there. My social...
Did this happen downstairs?
Yeah.
To Morris and Tibbetts, the story is a familiar one. The victim, typical. A frightened elderly woman trying to hide her fear, but not quite succeeding. Trying to tell what happened, but not always making sense. The culprits could have been colored. They might have been white. It happened too fast to tell. She screamed. There were people passing on the street, but no one stopped to help or stayed as witnesses. And that's the way it was. That's the way it usually is. The call comes in, you get there as fast as you can, but it's seldom fast enough to catch the criminals or please the public. And after a while, you learn to live with it. It's part of being a policeman. On a Friday night such as this one, the possibility of taking it easy is remote, since it's not at all unusual to inherit half a dozen unanswered complaints left over from the previous shift the moment you arrive on duty. These must be handled along with fresh assignments as quickly and efficiently as possible. The slightest complication or unforeseen delay may mean falling hopelessly behind.
Has he done this before? In other words, has he done it to this extent? And what was the altercation over the fight?
It was about a beer.
And during the altercation round, he had a gun. It went off twice. She's got one index finger lacerated from the bullet going through, and also one in the, it would be right about the left scapula.
25 arrests. Hang on just a minute. Shoot again. That's where he's at now. No. He's been involved in a little thing here, and I just wanted to get it checked out. What's he got outstanding on him? Anything?
The investigation of crimes involving armed assault may become complex and time-consuming for the patrolman. Having interviewed the victim of a shooting, Morris and Tibbetts must now complete a series of investigative reports, discuss details of the case with detectives, obtain information concerning the suspect, consult with a senior officer in correctly titling the crime, determine whether the victim wishes to press charges, and possibly obtain a warrant for the assailant's arrest. On occasion, these chores may pin a patrol team down for hours, while unanswered complaints continue to pile up. Whenever possible, squad cars in adjacent zones are called in to assist their fellow officers in handling these complaints until the first team is free. In the course of doing just that, Patrolman Jim Marinella and Tom Hakem, normally assigned to the 9th Zone, encounter another form of frustration. Having intercepted an automobile containing a colored female whose identity is well known to police, and a white male, a stranger in the neighborhood, the patrolman questioned the pair about their suspicious behavior. The man's story is all too familiar to Jim Marinella.
When you do, stop a white guy, and you don't stop him because he's white, but you know he doesn't live in the area. They live in Painesville, and they're going home, and they're going west down Euclid Avenue. But the guy's going home, you know, and it seems everybody's got a friend over there. And I don't think we'd have any racial trouble. If everybody we stopped said that had a friend over there had a friend, they wouldn't have any need for these house visits, you know. And he says, I got a friend over here. And I'm not doing anything wrong, and you don't have any right to arrest me. I said, well, you're right, so you might just go home, you know, which we didn't have any right, see. But it's a rough situation. You read all these articles, different people and ministers about the prostitution problem. Sure, we see them walking up and down the street, but we haven't got any legal right to pick them up. Anybody can walk up and down the street. In fact, that's all they'd have to do, and you'd be in a lot of trouble is pick somebody up for walking up and down the street. We know what's going on, but unless you actually catch them in the act, how can you do anything?
You can't, but you keep on trying, using every legal weapon at your disposal. In this case, the woman involved could produce no driver's license and was arrested on a traffic charge. Her car was also searched, in spite of the fact that Supreme Court rulings prohibit such searches on suspicion alone through a legal technicality.
We found the weapon in the car. The only reason it's not an illegal search is because we have arrested her already for not having a driver's license. Now, when that car gets towed, if there's any personal property in there and something's missing, let's say a tape recorder or a hi-fi, she's going to say, well, the police were there, what happened to it? So for our own protection, we've got to search the car before it leaves it to ascertain what's in there. This is how you have to get around these things. But this is a real bad state of affairs.
Patrolman Marinella's frustration is reflected in the record. Of the 1,670 persons arrested in 1965 in connection with prostitution, 1,283 were released with no formal charges pending. 10 were indicted. None were found guilty in court of the offense originally charged. It might logically be concluded from the court record that prostitution does not exist in Cleveland. The police, the courts, and everyone else knows better, but not much is being done to solve the situation. Even the victims of prostitution are uncooperative. Few of those who visit the East Side in search of illicit sex and wind up with empty wallets and split skulls to show for their stupidity will press charges, and fewer still will appear in court to testify. The public rationale that finds the same citizens screaming for police action on one hand but refusing to cooperate when they stand to gain or lose something by coming directly involved is precisely what makes the policeman's life difficult and the criminal's easier. Such selfish motives take many forms in the 5th District. At an East Side hotel, Jack Morris and Don Tibbetts investigate a reported strong-arm robbery. A hotel guest has been shaken up in his room and robbed of $76.
Their way in, Frank?
Huh?
They forced their way in?
There, two guys, big guy.
Did you see any weapon?
No. I just couldn't. I just opened the door, I was there. The child, he put in the bed and went to my money gone.
You don't have a telephone here, do you?
No, I got nothing. I just moved in. But 2 o'clock.
The victim has nothing, and neither have the police. No clues, no suspects, no identification, no witnesses. Yet even in cases where there are witnesses and are suspects, and everyone involved is present when the police arrive, the chances of making the correct charge stick may still be slim. Officers Marinella and Hakem have encountered this sort of situation during a call to a neighborhood bar. A patron claims to have been robbed of $200 and has accused a woman customer of the crime.
If it sounds legitimate, let's say there's other people in the place that can back up his story or make it sound like there is a possibility that this happened, a good possibility, you arrest the individual he implicates. Okay, once you grab this party, detain them, and put them under arrest, they're under arrest now. There's nothing that changes this. All of a sudden this guy says, I don't want to prosecute. Nothing happened. Now, who's the man in the middle? Huh? Who's the guy that's in bad shape? It's not like on TV, you know. The guy sits and writes the script, and no matter what happens at the end, they're going to get the bad guy so the guy looks good. You know, we don't have that.
One thing an officer working in Cleveland's 5th District learns early in his career is to expect the unexpected. Shortly after 9 p.m., Patrolman Jack Morris and Don Tibbetts are dispatched to an East Side home where a woman is reportedly trapped. There are no further details.
Don't move any more than you have to.
Probably get some swelling there, too.
It probably is right now.
This whole thing come down?
I wouldn't try. It won't go that way. Nice nail. Yeah, there we go. She says it's better, so. There we go.
Which side of the joist am I on?
Bill,
Yeah.
you're right about,
Bill? Yes.
about 6 inches to your right, Bill.
To my right. All right.
Thank you.
All right, come on.
I want to do this can.
Well, come on out.
Wait a minute, turn me loose. Now, wait a minute, I'll do it. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, I got it.
Yeah?
Well,
You got it,
how
Bess.
about
Come
that,
on.
Bessie?
It may be unusual or even amusing. It may be routine. It might be a riot. You may walk away laughing or be carried away in a stretcher. Whatever it is, there's only one thing you can count on: the man you work with.
You're going to spend 8 hours with him. You're sitting right next to him. Your life depends on him and vice versa. And once you work with an individual for a while, you know how he thinks and you know how you think. And this is important because when you go someplace, whether it's to search a building or a house or there's a gun involved, you go one way automatically without saying. He goes the other way and does what he's supposed to do, which is real important, you know, because you're all alone out there. And your partner is the guy you depend on.
Get out. He doesn't have to get out, see, because he know
There's
men
a door
don't.
there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard him getting out. When I heard him get out, then I came on up.
Had you ever seen this individual before?
Not to know. Not to know. He
You
was
had
a
never
little
seen
short.
him any place before?
He was a little short guy like this.
And did you see a weapon?
Yes, he had it on.
What kind of a gun did he
It
have?
was a little old short gun.
Having unexpectedly encountered an open door and a figure moving about inside a cleaning store, which had supposedly been looted half an hour earlier and which should have been closed at this time of night, Morris and Tibbetts had reacted instinctively to a potentially dangerous situation. Fortunately, the only occupant of the store is an employee, the victim of what turns out to be an armed robbery instead of a simple looting. Because a felony has been committed, they must once again call in both the Detective Bureau and the boss, a lieutenant assigned to follow up investigation of major crimes in the area.
So he determines what the crime is, but then it falls upon you that when you make this report, you have to put the elements in there of the crime. Let's say we make the arrest tonight on a felony. Well, maybe we won't go to court 6 months from today. To make an arrest is one thing, and there's also putting together the case. And like I say, after you make this arrest, and you're making maybe so many in a week's time, after the report is typed, you put it in your locker, maybe 6, 7 months from today, and you had so many other names and so many other burglaries that all you've got to go back on is this report. So you better make a good one. Because when you get down there, that lawyer's been sitting around maybe for a month figuring out how to tear your case apart. Also, when you start making these arrests, when you're working nights, you're going to have to go to court in the daytime. This is all on your own time. So when you get home, naturally you're shot. You're going to go to bed. You get up, you go right to work. So if you're married and you got a family, you don't actually have any time with them. When you come on the job, there's a lot of, you know, publicity-wise, and when you're recruiting, there's a lot of glory to the job and everything. But you don't realize how you're going to miss your weekends till you can't go out on the weekend, how you're going to miss the holidays. And then I think the biggest problem really is the pay. I would say that the people really don't bug me. I think once you get to the point where you can appreciate why somebody acts the way they do or they react to a situation, if you were in the same predicament, how would you be? This job, you got to have a lot of patience, and you got to appreciate somebody else's problem, because when somebody calls you, even though the guy is a nut or the call's a crank, to him it's a problem, else he wouldn't call. So you have to spend some time with him, you know, and try to explain something to him. See, it's not only a matter of enforcing the law. A lot of the job is interpreting the law to people. First of all, you gotta like people. If you're not the type of individual that doesn't like people, don't take the job. Second of all, if you're not the type of individual that can appreciate how other people feel, and you're not sympathetic, and you don't have a lot of patience, don't take the job. If you take the job with the attitude that you're out just to catch somebody or lock them up, well, this is all wrong. Because the laws are made initially to protect people. So you're more or less a protector than an apprehender. And the only reason you do apprehend people is for the protection of the other people. It doesn't necessarily mean because you made 1,000 arrests or you made 100 that one policeman is better than another one. I don't know, I always weigh in my mind that when you do something, it's got a big effect on the individual's life and his family's and the rest of his life. Even though you may never see him again and you're through with him, the job has a far-reaching effect. You have a lot of authority, even though with the Supreme Court and that we're limited, but we do, you know. I mean, people's lives depend upon us. Of course, like I say again, the pay is way out of line with the authority, you know. That goes along with the badge.
There are other things that go along with the badge, too. Names like Blue Eyes, Bull, Flatfoot, Fuzz, The Pinch, Poison. People call you anything but a policeman. You won't make much money, you won't make many friends. In the course of duty, you'll do jobs you like to do, jobs you don't like to do, jobs someone else should do, jobs you'll do whether you like them or not. You'll meet more kinds of people in a month than most people meet in a lifetime. Con men, addicts, bums, burglars, prostitutes, sadists, sex fiends, people on the take, people who get taken. You'll learn that when the lieutenant gives you a dressing down for wearing a wrinkled uniform and then sends you out to fight the good fight in a rusting, rotting, filthy 5-year-old squad car, he doesn't do it because he likes to. He does it because he has to, and because for reasons that are best understood by someone at City Hall, it's easier to justify spending $2,000 a year keeping some clunker on the road than it is to spend $2,000 on a new car. You'll learn other things, too, to live with court decisions that tend to hamper instead of help you, political pressure, public apathy, demands that you do more, demands that you do less. People will tell you in no uncertain terms that the police force is lazy, lax, bigoted, and brutal. At the same time, you'll see men like Tom Hakem collecting clothing in his spare time to take to kids whose parents probably spend more on booze than an officer can afford for food. And men like Don Tibbetts reaching into their own almost empty wallets to give the last of their change to the victim of a purse snatching so she can get home. And in all of this, you'll discover that being a policeman in this city is an endless, thankless, glamourless, misunderstood job for which men are paid much less than they deserve. But after a while, you may learn to live with it.
I think once you accept the fact that you've got a job, like I say, no matter what you do, you're going to be criticized. So if you get to the point where you just do what you believe is right and you satisfy yourself, I think that as far as getting along with the people, it makes the job a lot easier. I don't know. I think it does take a special type individual for the job. There's no doubt about it in my mind. And I would say all the policemen that I've come in contact with are all good policemen that I've worked with and that I've talked to. They are good. I think that in Cleveland, we got something to be proud of. I really do.